So I'm here with Richie Littler, who's the head honcho,
Hi, Dave.
inspiration and founding member of Grooveschool, which is quite a story to tell, really. Do you want to sort of give us a bit of the background, how and why you got into it?
How and why I got into Grooveschool? I was looking at teaching for a little while, for about 2 years before I had an opportunity to teach a group of 10-year-olds, a group of about 10, 15-year-olds, young lads in South London, DJing. I'd done a taster session with them, like an after school taster session when you look at careers, different careers and stuff like that. I took my decks and showed them how to mix vinyl. 2010 that was, right? And I've been looking at teaching for a couple of years. Before that, I was working in a record shop up to about 2008, and something tragic happened in my life, which made me whilst I was at the shop, which made me have a mantra of life's too short and I just want to get on with something, get on with teaching, do something that meant everything every day, and that got me into looking at teaching. But it was still doing the process of applying and doing all that when a friend of mine came along and said, there's another friend who's working at a school who wants to who give you, if you're up for it, to do a taster session. So that's how I got into teaching DJing, because I then formulated a little mini course for the school, 6-week course of DJing followed by a 6-week course of music production. So that's how I did that, and then I got a little bit of agency work around the M25, doing that type of thing, going in and doing taster sessions in schools. I've been sound engineering for a little bit, assisting my friend down at a place in Brixton called The Jam. A friend of mine, a quality sound engineer, and I was shadowing him, and then got my own little gig working for this promoter locally in Clapham, and I was enjoying that, and I was doing that, and then this opportunity came along where I was chatting with one of the punters one night, who was telling me, at the sound engineering gig, who was telling me about this charity that was doing a free education program at a pub, a local pub. At the back of the pub was an old stables that had been converted into a workshop, and so people were getting together to give free education workshops. So I put me out in the ring for that. I didn't get a call back for a couple of months, but in 2011 I got the call. We're having a meeting. I went along to the meeting, and that's kind of the beginning of Grooveschool. Was doing after school workshops free of cost to to local young people. That's what I wanted to do. It came out that we taught adults to begin with there because they signed up, but then it slowly, once we got policies in place and stuff, we slowly started to do stuff for the young people.
Oh, right.
So April 2011 is kind of when Grooveschool started proper, and by that time, and also the people who run the charity had been chatting to a couple of local fellas, Damien, Bain, who helped me out, who've been he was a DJ enthusiast, but like loved putting parties on, but he'd been doing work with local youth groups as well. And another guy, Simon Parkinson, who's a real kind of like DJ enthusiast. So the pair of them helped me out with another young lad called Lukey, DJ Lukey, whose dad was an old school hip hop DJ. So there was a team of 4 to begin with.
Right.
Very early on, not strictly to begin with, but very early on after that, we had a strong team. And Lukey was 23, and the rest of us were a little bit older than that, and Lukey would be the bridge between the young people and us, which worked out really, really well. So yeah, that's how it came about. It was an after school provision in Streatham every Tuesday night for a couple hours a week.
it sounds like a kind of almost, I wouldn't say random series of events, but connected events that kind of almost led to, I don't know if it was a eureka moment, but certainly it suddenly says that, hey, actually, this is how I can use my teaching skills and this is how I can use my music skills. So it did sort of follow a slightly random, haphazard path, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, whatever the word is, people, I guess fate's the word that was coming into my head, but I'm not too keen on that one. But circumstance, you know, that I wanted to do that thing that meant something, and then it wasn't straight away, you know. It happened, took a couple of years, but the formulation of thinking about putting something together as a self-employed kind of DJ tutor or whatever, that was the beginnings of then kind of thinking of a name for that, or what the business would be called, you know. And I remember there was a few things that I wrote down, loads of things that I wrote down, and I'd been writing things down for a little while, and then as I was, one night I was away from all that, I was just on the tube and it just come to me, the name, and I was like, wow. And I thought, wow, that's a great name, and that was the thing that started to get you know, creatively thinking that's done, that's sound, you know. What do we do with that? Well, there's always going to be DJ and music production, the two things being intertwined, you know. And no one's, well, look, a lot of youth organisations were doing rapping, a lot of MCing out there, which, you know, was fine, but there wasn't anyone specifically doing the DJing. I think in 2008, before the crash, when there was lots of like funding and stuff, there was other. What I came to find out was that there was, before the crash, there was a lot of other organisations who were doing that. And the crash happened, and then the funding was getting cut and stuff like that. So it wasn't exactly happening everywhere, and you know, especially in South London, specifically in South London, MCing and spitting bars and stuff. That was more and more the thing that young people wanted to do. So we had to. I kind of made the choice not to do that. It was like, well, we'll do this specific thing, and we'll kick on from there. And from my background, a little bit of sound engineering, we'll incorporate records. You know, we'll teach people vinyl. But the main thing that I was after was, if we are teaching young people, they've not necessarily got music of their own. So we turn them on to lots of different styles of music, turn them on to music, get them listening to music, give them music, basically. And that'll be a crucial factor, but also they wouldn't have the kit. It's alright, I was playing vinyl and teaching them how to DJ on vinyl, but they haven't got vinyl at home. So we started to look at digital and digital DJing, but really back then it was looking at digital DJing with the scratch, with the coded vinyl.
Yeah.
And the reason why I went along, we focused on the coded vinyl more than DJ controllers, was that the coded vinyl, you had that tactility to, you know, and that connection with vinyl still. And I had a kind of hope that young people would be making music and they'd be able to play them on these coded vinyl and have that experience of playing their own music, you know. So that's what we did, and week in, week out for about 4 years, we ran an after-school programme in Streatham. Every 3 months we would have a fundraiser that the young people would play at, and that was the big kind of development step up in confidence that we were able to give them, that they took with both hands. And it's a small group, you know, but it was those who went and seeked us would find us, and they would get these amazing opportunities, really.
Right, because I mean, you talk very much about Grooveschool's tradition as being very much aimed at, I'd say, sort of young to mid-teenage market, partly because of that automatic interest in music. So do you find that what Grooveschool does, and particularly this emphasis on music and music production, is something that people that age really respond well to?
the funny thing is, you've got a kind of schedule with after school programs, and it's absolutely dominated by football, you know, through the week. And what was apparent very early on is any youngster who might want to do it midweek, but has the, you know, commitment to doing football, music's not getting a look in. And for a little while there, we were kind of working out what night to do it, just to work out, you know, to accommodate. But no, the big thing's football. And so the music side of things, yeah, you know, everyone's like, oh yeah, you know, people want to do that, and they will, but it's then having it available. So it tends to be those who probably don't find the path of football. They find that it tends to be the quiet ones who find something different than other people, really, rather than, you know, and that's a combination of the nature of after school programs and the nature of the subject, really. But in respect of who it was for to begin with, I was looking at providing for, you know, on the cusp of secondary school, that kind of transition between junior and secondary school, really, to give people something of interest, something of worth, something of value to them to keep doing, something that they found that they wanted to do, and hopefully continue to do so, and us to be there for them to be able to do that. So that's, I don't know whether I'll answer the question, but that's kind of like the nature of it. So twinned with that really was, do we go and get, because lots of other youth organisations will go out there and like be lots of numbers, right, and they're ticking off boxes and stuff about numbers, and it's not necessarily the same now, but it was definitely a major factor back then. Now you go to football, you've obviously got numbers straight away, you've got lots of numbers, but what are we supposed to do in a DJ thing? Like just turn over young people coming and having a go, because they can come and have a go, but who's interested in staying?
Yeah.
You know, how many are interested in staying, what's they going to do? So we might do like a taster session every now and again, but really the overriding factor was consistent delivery week in, week out. Those who wanted to would keep coming.
Yeah.
And there wasn't necessarily a course that we were given, it was a kind of bespoke provision where, okay, we had DJing and we had music production, but really it's whatever level you're coming in at, we're going to try and enable you some kind of learning, you know.
So does that mean, because there's so many things to potentially learn, there's the DJing, there's radio presenting, there's podcasting, there's music production, so all these things, do you tend to let them just kind of find their interest or find their skill rather than do it in a structured way?
The structured way, whenever we've tried that, works to a degree sometimes, but you know, you want to have a go, get in and have a go on everything. Even though early days with me teaching and going down the M25 doing that agency work, you know, you got like a 40-minute session with like 30 kids. They're not doing much, like not having a go for long. Especially the one kid out of that 30 who wants to have a go for the 40 minutes. You should really give him that go, you know.
Yeah.
But what was the question again, mate? Because seriously, like,
don't ask me. No, it was about, originally it was about the core focus in age terms. No, then about when they come in, do you kind of structure it?
So basically, what you have is what we had. We would have volunteers. Initially, we got volunteers bringing in their equipment. So Simon comes in, he's got a DJ controller every week. Simon's going to be teaching that, you know. So really it was down to personnel, it was down to who turned up on that day. Because they might, you know, little Johnny might come in and go, alright, want to learn DJing. So they're coming in, right, okay, Simon's here. Simon can teach you a bit of that this week, that's cool. The week Simon's not in, what do we do? We can teach you DJing as well, but we might mix it up, might say. And by that time, the young people have had to go both anyway.
Yeah.
So what we found, which was really interesting in the early days and still true now, an individual might come in with a little bit of background DJing, maybe the parents have got records or whatever, or the parents are musicians or they're musicians. They've come into and they're musicians, so they want to learn a bit of music production, right? And they're coming in and do the music production, but they see the DJing, so I would like to go with that. Vice versa, someone who's coming in to do the DJing specifically, they then look and see the other thing, and they quite like the fact that you can do that. So week in, week out, it was trying to work with whoever came through the door on that night, whatever progression they'd made, wherever they were in their journey with learning, whether it was DJing or music production, maybe they had the track to crack on with. There would be a mix of that. There would be a mix of what we wanted to do that night, as in let's look at the decks, let's look at the vinyl decks, let's look at the digital DJing tonight, let's look at this new program, let's have a look at this little mini synth that we've got. It was a rounded provision. It was different. It wasn't different every week, because we'd have the DJ in one end of the room and the music production the other end, but within that we would bring in different bits of kit and mix it up and have it interesting. Now, it was always determined by how many weeks in the term there was, to then realise that at the end of the term we wanted a performance. So whatever we were doing, if there was a fundraiser coming at the end of that term, it would be down sticks, let's concentrate on the DJing, because you're going to DJ in front of people and that's the thing to concentrate on. So week in, week out, the young people are going through, certain practices, certain, skills and that. But ultimately, there's a gig come up. I remember when we first moved to this space where we are now, and we decided to have a 10-week focus on vinyl when we first moved in, and we were looking at looking at the vinyl that we had, putting on Discogs, recording stuff, and finding your own little set and that, and so the young people did that, and then there was an opportunity to play at Royal Albert Hall that came up for music for youth, which was a total down sticks. You got to kind of focus on getting your set together for that.
It's a pretty big commitment, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but that's the kind of generalization of it. Really, is whatever that person wanted to do when they walked through the door. There's a young guy called Little Rich way back who had about 30-40 tracks made, 2.5 minute tracks. He was they needed developing a little bit, these tracks, but the quality of them and everything else, and he knew what he was doing, and he had a passion for that style of music. It was beautiful. It was what do we show him? Well, the thing that he wanted to be shown really was how to DJ his tunes together. So we gave him an opportunity to do that, and he did that through the track to scratch. That was his first DJ thing. But then when he came to play our fundraiser and that, he had all his Apple Mac and playing a live set and everything, So we never had any other youth organisation or a school, or if the school was lucky enough, they would have 5 iMacs. Their funding would go on 5 iMacs with a Akai MP, mini keyboard and that MIDI controller, and play it in Logic, and that's what they did. We never had that. We would have laptops with Ableton and Logic on and different programs, and we would have little sound cards to record stuff into, and different devices to go on, lots of machinery, native instrument stuff, lots of Ableton push. Yeah.
Don't you think that's kind of more representative of the real world, in that we don't all work with perfect technology all the time? You kind of learn with different things, and there's different ways of doing that are available to you.
Well, I think if you look at DJ controllers anyway, what would happen is you've got, which is kind of the standard thing that a young person would be able to acquire possibly when birthday time or Christmas comes around, you know, especially after coming to a DJ class. More often than not, they'd be going for the Newmark Mix Track Pro, right? That fit like that. Whereas the adults in the class are using Tractor, Native Instruments Tractor, and then later on everyone's using the Pioneer stuff, and it's like phones or any other thing, you know, cars, whatever you talk about. The interface, it's a different look, a different arrangement in the interface, but the principles and all the tools and all the functions are still there.
Yeah.
So that, in that respect, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's a lot to do with whatever was economical, you know.
So we've talked about a lot of the work you're doing with young people. I hate that term, young people. It sounds so patronising, but you know what I mean. With certain age groups there, where they're more kind of maybe early on in their evolution in terms of music, but you've started to branch out a bit, haven't you, in terms of other groups that you're working with?
Very early on, we had where we were in Streatham, we were doing there was other organisations doing after school stuff. There was a drama class, there was a street dance class. Very early on, worked with a local councillor on this project that she wanted to do, which was a little bit like, you know, Stratham's Got Talent, a little bit like going down that path, which is a musical thing, and I hated the whole thing, concept of it, competitiveness of it, all the rest of it and all that, but it was a lot of fun to do, and the talent was there. So very early on, we were collaborating with different kind of, you know, opening up to different aspects of music, but also within those classes, the inclusive nature of the young people who would come in also determined that, you know, we provide for special educational needs, and we can do that. We do that without like making a fuss of it. We already do that, but actually we can do that, and it can, if we do dedicate time to that, we can actually like you know, integrate the class a little bit better by knowing that we've got dedicated time that someone's learning to then join the group. So we created this like little buddy system about an hour before we did our main group. Right, so we did a special educational like Grooveschool introduction for SEND, and we'd have an hour that was dedicated to an individual who would come in and work with someone else who would act as a buddy, and then they would be able to integrate into the main community group a little bit, you know, a little bit more with that confidence, with that trust, and you know, be able to give time for everybody basically. What then came from that, you know, we were working with blind people. We had blind participants, and then later on down the line we've been working with deaf groups. At the moment, working with quite a few autistic groups, which is great.
That's quite a range of, in a way, you just kind of put them all under, you know, particular needs, but they've all got very different needs, especially in terms of the way that you teach them.
Yeah, I think it helped. Two things. It's the size of the group. So you want to be able to provide for every individual who comes in. So you want that kind of one-to-one. So we were always kind of like, okay, with the amount of volunteers, because of the amount of young people that we had, was small groups. You know, we were trying to like have one adult to every four in most of our groups. But when it came to like carers and other people coming in, it's a definite thing that we could provide knowing that each individual lad was occupied with an activity because of the kit that we got, because of the monitoring, the kind of like supervising that we got, that kind of got going between different people, and that the bespokeness of it, we'd be able, because of the different factions of kit. So in this room now, there's podcasting, there's music production, there's DJing. We can run a course where, you know, a couple of people have a conversation in the autism group. They can do the podcasting bit, someone can work with someone doing music production, someone can show someone a DJing, you know, those three things. So everyone's having a go at everything else, but what then happens is, over that initial assessment or working out what the young people then want to do, they can then have a little bit more of a pathway of learning. Maybe, you know, someone wants to concentrate on podcasting, or someone wants to make tunes. So that's kind of what happens because of the nature of the setup that we've always had, and the bespokeness of it, of the provision, having lots of equipment to be able to use. It happens in the nature of the personnel that we have being mild-mannered and, you know, there for people and wanting to work with individuals. Yeah, you know, it's a cool thing.
I'm going to finish off with this one question, which we've kind of touched on it, but we've talked a lot more about the process, what people learn, what they get to experience with. But a big part of your work is also about giving them something back, whether it's tapes of, you know, what they've produced, whether it's live gigs, events, promotional gigs, whatever. Is that a really big part of the process as well?
Big part of the process is the performances. That's the biggest part, I would say, in the sense of like outcomes, rather than, you know, this is but putting a podcast on a platform can be done, you know, enhancing people's profiles in the sense that, like, they might have done a podcast, they might create the podcast, they might create some music, put an EP together, they might do a DJ mix. These are, you know, definite, tangible outcomes, basically, that you can put in a profile, that you can say, like, this is what I achieved here, this is what I've done, this is what I've learned, you know. You can get a certificate for it if you wanted to, but actually, like, it's there. That you've done the work.
I think that's the real motivation when you get the final result back. You say, I did that. You can't beat it, really.
No, and that's it. You know, that's what we're trying to do, but we're not trying to just sort of look, you know, I've seen this happen over years and years and years, where you have youth groups and they'll do a track with young people. There'll be an adult there, they're doing the track, they're turning around to everyone and getting them all to have a little go on it, and then the adults finishing the tune, you know. And it's like, right, these young people have been working on this, and that's kind of like a standard thing, right? I'm not I'm giving away secrets, right? But that's not, because we have that consistent delivery through term time, and the amount of times that people can come back, we don't have to do that. We can see people's progress in them doing all of these things and learning these things, and they do progress, you know. It's not like they're sat there going, they need someone to do that bit. They will. They're learning it. They you know, which is formidable, really, growth when you see it in people.
I bet it is. Yeah, it must be a real thrill.
It is. Yeah,
well,
it's amazing.
There's so much more we could talk about, but I think that's for another time. We've got plenty on the agenda.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, thanks very much for your time.
You're welcome, Dave. Thank you.